What is going on, everybody? Welcome into the Fantasy Coaches Podcast. I am your host, as always, Coach Steve. On today's episode, guys, it is week 10, almost week 10. So it means we're talking waiver wire pickups tonight, trying to help you guys find some players. It's not the greatest teams on bye week, but, you're always going to need a player or two to fill up your bench spot or maybe help you out in your starting lineup this weekend. That's what we're going to do. And then at the end of the episode, we're going to talk about some players that you might want to consider trading or trading away for, or just kind of our overall takes on some of these players right now that I think are in limbo based off of some trades that I've seen recently in the fantasy world. So, as always, let me introduce our co-host, Coach Jibbs. Coach Jibbs, what's going on, buddy?
What's up, man? How are you today?
Yeah, I'm okay, man. It's a Monday. It's a tough day. I thought today was Tuesday. We were talking about tacos earlier, and I thought it was Taco Tuesday, and it's not at all. So, I'm off to a bad start.
Oh, yeah, me too. That was my fantasy team in week 9. Just underwhelming performances. Like, I thought I hit rock bottom a couple weeks ago, but the ship's out. The ship's done, guys. But hopefully I can rebound next week. And I was just kind of delightful to just kind of hit on some of these lower recommendation guys. Sleepers last week. So, I'll take that as, a little victory.
Moral victories. I like that as far. So go Jags, by the way. But we do have a guest on today's episode, guys. She was on our podcast when we did our charity event. She came on, she gave some great takes, and now she's blowing up. Madi, what is going on? Welcome to the show again.
What is up? I'm so excited to be back. This was my very first podcast ever. So now I'm just excited to be back.
Absolutely love it. I said your name right this time. You weren't there, but I said your name wrong like 7 times throughout the show. So
you say everyone's name wrong, so it's
it's
rite of passage.
But I was 5 hours in for talking for 5 straight hours, so I was pretty donezo at that point of the night. So I think it was 9. So
you did warn us, though. You were like, "I'm exhausted."
I am. By the end of that show, it was 11, and my eyes were barely staying open. I don't even know who was on at the end of that show, but we're gonna have a good show today, and I'm wide awake for this episode. So I've only talked for about 2 minutes so far. So. Madi, just let kind of people what you're doing in the industry now.
So I'm still new, but I'm on several different podcasts a week. I do a lot of stuff with drroto.com. I'm hanging out with the Run Boys some. I have my own podcast. We have It's a Vibe on 32-bit with Marcus Grant. And I also write an article called In the Trenches that evaluates offensive line, defensive line matchups for the upcoming week.
That's awesome. I've read it a couple times, and it's pretty freaking good, that's for sure.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely. But let everyone know where they can find you at on social media as well.
You guys can find me at Madi Kroll on all social media.
Awesome. Cool. So give her a follow, guys. We'd much appreciate it for sure. So
yeah, for sure.
Let's get into today's topic, guys. We do have a few things to talk about news-wise. I guess we can mention real quick. So Deshaun Jackson, we knew he got released from the Los Angeles Rams this weekend and just signed with the Las Vegas Chargers on a 1-year deal. That's kind of fun. Probably takes away them being out of the Odell Beckham sweepstake that's currently going on right now. As you guys all know, if you haven't been living under a rock, Odell Beckham and the Cleveland Browns have agreed to a release, basically, and now he's currently on waivers as of today, and teams have until 4 p.m. tomorrow to put in a waiver claim for him. It's just like fantasy, but in the real world, obviously. So I will quickly mention that. How do you guys feel about Odell and where he could end up at that you guys might like?
Go first. I'm not a huge fan, so this might be a hot take, but they have made his contract really unattractive for teams that are looking to pick somebody up, and we're kind of seeing a repeat performance from him. This is exactly what he did with the Giants, and I just kind of feel like wherever he goes, he's going to bring in that nasty attitude, and there's going to be very few teams that are going to welcome that into their locker room. Maybe the 49ers. They're kind of in a weird spot. I don't know. I don't see many places that are just going to welcome him with open arms.
I think you're right. And his $7 million cap hit currently right now is definitely something that many teams who are obviously cap stripping right now really can't afford. So, I mean, he might actually just clear waivers, to be honest. That end up happening for sure.
It's like 30% of teams even have the cap space, I think.
And most of those teams are at the bottom because he wants to play with a contender because he deserves that, apparently.
Yeah.
So
yeah, which is true. But like if crappy team claims him, he's just gonna cause a muck, just like Madi says. I totally agree. I think he's a home wrecker, and like they're saying he might go to the Seahawks. I think that's just gonna wreck Lockett shares. It's gonna wreck Metcalf shares, and hey, maybe it'd be a super high potent offense, and they could compete with the Rams. But I'm not gonna like that for fantasy purposes. But hey, if you held on to Beckham or you got him off waivers, good for you. He's in a better situation. That's the only upside.
Does he deserve to be on a contending team? Has he performed in the last 5 years?
No.
He's going a boat.
Yeah, since the boat incident, he's been pretty bad in fantasy. So the curse is real with Odell Beckham right now.
I agree.
All right. So what else we got here on today's? Chase Edmonds, guys. Chase Edmonds left the game after one play last week and is now considered having a sprained ankle, a high sprained ankle, and he could see himself on the short-term IR. Do we like James Conner now for the next 3 weeks? Is he like a top back right now? You know, we saw his performance against 49ers and he dominated. Do you guys like him moving forward for maybe the next 3 weeks?
I do. Now, everybody's like, okay, sorry, did I cut you off?
No, I totally agree with you. I'm shaking.
Yeah. Everybody's like, once Kyler comes back, it's not going to be as great, but that is a run blocking offensive line, and they've actually ran the ball quite well. It's overshadowed by what Kyler Murray does with the ball down the field, but they do run the ball, and I don't know. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, I'm a big fan too. Like, he wasn't getting the catches before, and we saw yesterday. I don't know, just because it's Case Keenum and there were a lack of some wide receivers in the offense, but he got utilized. And I think even if he gets 4 catches or so, and he's obviously been the touchdown guy, so it's looking pretty. The skies are looking pretty clear for him for next.
He's the finisher. Yeah.
Put some respect on Colt McCoy's name, man. Come on.
I put mad respect on him.
He called him Case Keenum, bro.
Sorry, but
I didn't even notice that.
Better than your boy Jacoby.
Oh yeah,
we're not a real backup.
We're talking about Miami today. This is not a Miami Dolphin podcast. But yeah, James Conner. I mean, if he does get if Chase Edmonds is out over the next 3 weeks, you really want to be starting James Conner every single week. You know, Kyler Murray isn't really running the ball as he was in his early 2 seasons. You know, he's running at best like 30 yards a game. James Conner has been dominant this season when he's been given opportunity and obviously seeing that touchdown opportunity. So if you have him and you've been holding on to him this entire time, you're going to have yourself likely a high-end RB2 at least for the next 3 weeks, while Chase Edmonds, he's not on the IR yet, but I would assume he ends up on the IR at some point during this week here. So sorry, Chase Edmonds, your time has come to an end for now, but hopefully you can come back and healthy in a few weeks. But we have to talk about some waiver wires, guys. And on bye week this week, it's pretty much, besides the Bengals, it's pretty much players that we don't really care about. Bears, Giants, and Texans are the other 3 to match with the Bengals.
What about Monty over here?
Monty, what do you mean?
I care about Monty.
Monty. Oh, yes. Yeah, Dave Montgomery is coming off the IR, but he needs another week or 2 before he gets healthy. So the bye week is where I don't think he's supposed to come back until after the bye, so I'm not worrying about him yet. So he needs more time. So, but the waiver wire, the bye week people aren't most likely, about half of them don't start. Can we agree with that? They don't usually start most of the time. So. All right, so let's get over to the waiver wires, guys. And you guys know we try to stay under the 40% mark as much as we can. But again, we're going to try to give you guys our best bets on players that you can pick up and hopefully start for you either now or long term. So, Madi, who's your quarterback pickup of the week?
Man, I was talking to you guys about this earlier. This is kind of like there's not many people to choose from here. If Carson Wentz is available, he's probably my favorite. And he's not under 40%. So that's just bear with me on that. Also, Matt Ryan kind of teeters. He's probably my number 2. And then my 3rd is Taylor Heineke. All right. Yeah, I'm trying to carefully. Maybe not as much this week, Taylor Heineke, because the Bucs are starting to slowly solidify that secondary. But going forward, he's
been decent at times, and if Washington is kind of behind in this game, I mean, they might be needing to throw the ball a lot. So
he's just unpredictable, which I don't like. as a fantasy player.
Especially as a streaming option either. I'd like to have something consistent is going to get you solid fantasy points. And he's, over the last at least month now, he's been just so up and down. So I like that take there, Maddie. I like that.
He gets all the good matchups too, which is crazy.
Yeah.
He does.
And he just
run game is not going to run the ball well in this matchup. So I think he might be throwing the ball a little bit. So Coach Shibs, what do you got?
For me, I'm going to go back with Teddy Bridgewater. He's just under 40% owned, 38 exactly. So, and like we were talking before the show, like the streaming quarterback matchups this week are just horrible. But I did find a consolation prize in Teddy Bridgewater, and he's going against my Eagles, who currently give up the 6 fewest points. But they lost Darius Slay with a hamstring injury during that game, and I feel like with Slay probably not be able to play, like that's definitely dink in our armor. He's one of our best defensive players, so I think Teddy Bridgewater will have a pretty like productive day because like you want to have someone like Sutton getting locked down, and so they get spread the ball out even more. And I believe he probably will end up getting another 22-point day. So you can sign yourself up with Teddy Bridgewater this week.
Had to take my guy, man. Come on. You know I'm the Teddy guy. Come on.
You got to find another guy.
I'll find one. There's a couple of guys out there. And if there's this one guy out there who's a little banged up right now, and it's Trevor Lawrence. He did get banged up this past weekend. So keep your eye on that. He may or may not play, which probably will. I'm assuming he's going to play. But he does play the Indianapolis Colts. And they've been very, favorable for quarterbacks. You saw Josh Johnson, guy who hasn't played in probably 6 years, throw up a QB1 performance on Thursday Night Football. So if Trevor Lawrence can see somewhat of that first-round talent that we loved in him coming out of the draft, he might be able to put some fantasy numbers up there. Again, his is still in limbo because of his injury right now. But if you want to look at a different option, Trevor Simeon didn't play the worst game last week, and they do play the Tennessee Titans, who have been kind of lenient towards quarterbacks. So that could be a situation where Trevor Simeon is your streamer quarterback of the week because he didn't look good in the first half. In the second half, he put up 3 touchdowns or 2 touchdowns and looked pretty decent. So he could be an option for you as well. So
he makes good decisions too. He protects the ball typically.
Yeah, and I don't think he turned the ball over this past week either. And so
smart guy.
Yeah,
you want someone who's not going to turn the ball over for sure. So
it's very true.
And like we mentioned this before the show, the QBs there's a pretty bad QB week, honestly. There's no QBs. It's like you got to go get this guy because he's got to go off. So that's why we have all the running backs and the wide receivers to talk about because there are some players to talk about, I think, in the rest of the positions here. So I forgot to put my little thing up here. So we're going over to the RB pickups now. So, Maddie, who's your RB pickup of the week?
Okay, I actually have 2 because I couldn't decide. I really like Devonta Freeman, and I know people are going to think I'm crazy, but he's been scoring, and I don't think that that's going to stop. He's hungry. I feel like he has to be so old because we've watched him play for so long, but he's not playing like he's old. And then my number 2 guy, and the only reason that he's number 2 is solely because of who they're playing, but Jordan Howard. I think he's a good running back to pick up down the stretch, only because typically I don't like when quarterbacks run these RPO offenses. I feel like it doesn't pan out well in the league. But now that Jalen Hurts has been under center, it's been looking a little bit different. And their run game's kind of stepped up a little bit. So I kind of like Jordan Howard going forward.
No, Jibs loves that with his Eagle tag there.
I mean, that offensive line just flows whenever he can get under center. And obviously we know that he has a little bit extra time to decide what's going to happen, but they're so much more decisive, and it's beautiful from running backs.
North and south, that's all we need.
And to be honest,
end zone.
Devonta Freeman's a great pickup. Honestly, I like
think so too.
If Murray is out, which it's possible because it's a short week. They do play the Dolphins on Thursday night, and Dolphins have just allowed so much rushing this season. I guess we all talk about the Dolphins now.
You can do whatever you want against the Dolphins. Sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. It's a bad season for Miami. I'm just going to let it be at this point. But, yeah, I mean, at this point, Freeman has looked great. So both these options are fantastic, honestly. Coach Jibs, what do you got?
So I got my first pick stolen, Howard, but I'm gonna go with my second guy, and I'm gonna find a third one too. But I like Ramondre Stevenson, and Damian Harris sustained a head injury late in the fourth quarter, and we saw Stevenson come in the game, and he had pretty good production. Like he did, I believe he scored a touchdown, and he had 60-something yards. 62 yards, and he even threw in 44 yards receiving. So if Damian Harris can't play the upcoming week, and I know like Ramondre Stevens has been inactive, and he's been having such a roller coaster season, but I just like the way Bill Belichick and the Pats have been using the running backs. You've seen Damian Harris score in 5 straight games. So like, at least one running back has scored in 5 straight games. So you know they're using the running back down in the end zone. And if Damian Harris is out, you got to think Ramondre Stevenson's that guy. So that's why he's my second pickup or my first option this week.
You said you had a second one, or no?
Oh, you want me to
just do both.
So like, yeah, if you guys are like late in your season, like kind of just pick up your handcuff guys. Like I didn't know James Robinson was going to be looking more to be active this week and playing. So I was going to suggest Carlos Hyde because he played 95% of the snaps, and it may be like against the Buffalo Bills, but like you can't really turn down that work. But like also pick up like a guy with Chase Edmonds being out. Like look into Benjamin too. Like we've seen Connor sustain some injuries throughout the year, and if they give him that full workload, which I hopefully think the guy that he could handle, you always just want to have the backup guy too. So looking at Benjamin.
That was actually my number one waiver pickup this week, man. Come on. Outside of Freeman, I think Benjamin, I think, needs to be on the top.
Well, tell us a little bit more about
The thing I see about, we kind of hyped up James Conner, all three of us, just like 2 minutes ago. But we all know James Conner has an injury history. And if he sees a extended workload, maybe that injury kind of creeps back in. And Nito Benjamin was a guy, like 3 years ago who I really liked coming out of the draft, but kind of got buried behind multiple running backs, unfortunately. And he played decent. He saw some snaps. I think he played like 35% of the snaps this past week here. And if Edmonds is out for an extended period of time, Benjamin might have himself an opportunity and maybe in the next 3 weeks see a starting role if Connor gets hurt. So he's kind of somebody I'm looking to go after if you're looking for like a more of a desperation play probably, but I think he has opportunity in a high-scoring offense. And with Hopkins maybe being out again, AJ Green, who knows, with his COVID situation, he might need as many players on the field as possible. So,
and they like to evenly spread their touches, I would say.
They do. You saw them it's kind of spread all around between the top 4 receivers, and usually the 2 backs usually get something, and Zach Ertz. So someone is always getting something. So
yeah.
Let's see here. Who else I have here? Mark Ingram. He's still under the 40% own mark. If you want to go get him, I think he's pretty much a solid high-end handcuff who can be flexible in the right matchups. He facts all 5 targets. That's probably not something he's going to see on a week-to-week basis, but he's definitely usable, and I think because they lack the weapons on the receiving games that they might be forced to throw the ball, run the ball a little bit more. So he's definitely someone. Let's see who else we have. Lev Bell, Latavius Murray, kind of going with Devonta Freeman. Depends on who kind of plays it, who doesn't. Jeff Wilson didn't play this past week, but he is active off the IR now, so his time could come at some point. Ty Johnson, he seems to be kind of that 1B in that Jets offense, even though it's a bad matchup. Gio Bernard, any Seattle running back, I guess, if you're desperate. And Sony Michel, he saw, I think, a touchdown this past week, but he's definitely a good handcuff just to kind of have. He's under that 40%. So there's not a lot of wide running backs, but there are some that are usable for you this week. So over to the wide receivers now. So, Madi, who's your wide receiver pickups this week?
I feel bad taking 2 again because I'm scared I'm going to take it.
That's okay. I was usually we do 2, but I thought we had 3 on, so we figured to go 1. But just do 2. I'm cool with it. Let's do it.
All right, I'm going with the People's pick, Donovan Peoples-Jones. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Especially against this defense, and I know people are going to say that I'm crazy because the Browns are run offense, but I do feel like Belichick's going to force Baker to throw just because of that injury. He's going to make him do that as much as possible. And he showed out last week. So I'm excited for him. I think that he's going to have a good week this week, and I feel like he could be consistent. Oh, I promised you guys a second one. Okay. I did. Tim Patrick.
Yes.
And this one, this one is kind of like a given. He's not in any of my leagues, but he's still under that 40% mark, I believe. So if you can get him, grab him.
Tim Patrick's been on the waiver show every week, so he's like the coach's favorite.
Yeah, I mean, I like it.
He's on like the after slate. He's just a guy who just produces, and clearly in a matchup that was obviously favorable for them, Tim Patrick was the better of the 3 wide receivers. So such an underrated player that never gets the recognition.
So efficient and so underrated. I agree.
And Peoples-Jones is great. Honestly, it's a great pick because he's got high upside to his game there. And without Odell now, I think this offense gets back to what we saw at the end of last season when they were like on all cinders and whatnot. So I like. And
he plays smart. He gets his body in a position to win a matchup even when he's not favored.
100%. Could not agree less on that. Coach Gibbs, what do you got for us?
For me, it's gonna be. I want to go with Elijah Moore, and I know it's risky starting a Jet in your fantasy leagues. And sneakily, he's been in form over the last 2 weeks or so. And I know it's been some inconsistencies with the quarterback play and who's been in and who's been out. But that situation is going to be resolved by your waivers on Tuesday. But still, I like Elijah Moore as a great upside play, end the bench guy for definitely your end of season stretch run. So I don't think he may be risky to play against Buffalo, but considerably like his matchup late in the season and maybe the Jets sustaining a good offensive flow with a good quarterback or a consistent quarterback play. But I like Elijah Moore. He scored 2 touchdowns last week, and he's been pretty productive in the offense.
Well, I mean, he was my top pick, so I like it.
Yeah, I knew he would be your top pick. You were definitely caddying him over the summer in fantasy. And I guess my second pick, similar to Tim Patrick, would be Russell Gage. He's only 18% owned, and Calvin Ridley's still going to be MIA, so he's showed up last week actually and caught 7 passes and looked like the Falcons' leading receiver. Although Zacchaeus scored 2 touchdowns, but what can you do about that? So I like his utilization, and I think he'll be a great pickup for this week.
Surprised Russell Gage wasn't your number 1 pick, man. Come on.
Nah. It's Elijah Moore. Like upside over some floor play. Come on.
That's true. I always prefer an upside play all day. All right, so you left me not with much here on the waivers, I guess. So let me see if I can find some players to rock. All right, so for long term, obviously Rashard Bateman is still under that 40% guy, so he needs to be over that now. He has, produced fantasy numbers. Again, it hasn't been word breaking just yet, but I mean, 50 yards in back-to-back games. He's had at least 5 targets in all 3 games he's played this season here. They're going to come. I know Sammy Watkins is coming back, so that might scare people off, but it seems like at this point, Lamar Jackson's throwing the ball. He's no longer just a running quarterback, even though he ran for like 120 yards this past week. The man can throw the ball, and mad respects to Hollywood Brown, who's just dominated this year, but this passing game is working right now, and so I want players that are actually being involved. He saw 6 targets this past week here in a matchup where, they were in a shootout. So he's obviously seeing the work. He just hasn't hit that mark where he's getting the touchdown or he's having that big game yet. And it will come. I'm saying this back half of the season, Rashard Bateman is someone you're going to want on your fantasy team because he's going to have a couple of good, really good games that you really want to have on your fantasy roster right now.
I agree with that.
Thank you. I was not a big Bateman fan coming out of the draft. I know your boy Robbie.
Really?
Robbie ripped me. He had him on the show for our rookie talk, and I said I didn't like him
down.
He tore me so down on that show. I didn't know what to say. I was like, my bad. I didn't like it. But what I'm seeing now is what I was hoping that I saw the positives in him. So I like it.
He's incredibly smart, and that's going to help him win a lot of matchups.
Agreed. And then one guy I guess you could talk about for just this week here, if you're looking for a replacement option, is Quan Smith. He led the team in yards this past week, and they do play the Tennessee Titans, who give up the most fantasy points per game to wide receivers this year. If Trevor Simeon is the starter, there's options for him to obviously have to throw the ball to someone, and Tre'Quan Smith could benefit from this past week. Again, it's more like a 1 week rental. I wouldn't trust him long term or anything like that. But in a matchup where you're looking for a streaming option or flex, he's definitely someone that I'd be interested in picking up if I had to. All right.
Okay.
Thank you. And then just a couple others. KJ Osborne, we've talked about him in this part. Just a guy you could always pick up. Braylon Edwards, kind of disappointed, but still intrigued to see if he can kind of bounce back. Zach Pascal is another Tim Patrick, basically, who's decent. Jamal Agnew, super underrated. He's basically just there's like multiple Tim Patricks, and Zach Pascal is a Tim Patrick.
Yeah,
I love it. Jamal Agnew, another guy. He's on a bye, but he's definitely saw the most targets on this team. And Amon St. Brown is a rookie who I really like coming out of this season here, who hasn't performed to that standard, but he's coming off a bye. I'd love to see kind of what they do with him and see if they get him more involved in this offense to try to make something work. But again, he's plays for the Lions, so no one really wants any Lions. He's there for you if you're looking for somebody. All right, so on to our last section here, the tight end pickups. So, Maddie, what do you have for tight end?
So I'm going to do this a little differently. I have one that I like and then one I want people to stay away from this week.
I like it.
All right, so Dan Arnold. He's been putting up some numbers, and that's only going to continue, especially everybody knows that a rookie quarterback's best friend is a tight end. So he's going to keep getting these looks, especially if he actually is hurt. Arnold's going to keep getting those. The one player I want people to stay away from, Tyler Conklin. And I know that people are like, oh, he had a great game last week. Well, the Ravens give up insane numbers to tight ends. They can't cover tight ends. I don't know why, whether they choose to just let them do their thing or what. Don't trust last week's performance. I especially against the Chargers, I believe is who they play this week. I don't like it at all.
No, Maddie, we're gonna disagree in a little bit.
Oh, really? You say pick him up?
We'll see. He might. Depends on if Jibbs picks him or not. So.
No. My number one was Dan Arnold. So.
Yeah, it's a good pickup.
A bye, but long term, I think he's really good.
Are they on a bye this week?
They are, but
dang, I'm sorry, guys.
He is a pickup that you need to have because in a bad matchup last week, he was great.
And I think he has 13%. I didn't realize. I'm sorry, guys. I dropped.
No, because people have to also know that bye week players also need to be picked up, and they're not going to show up on your top, streaming options or trending players or top players projected this week because he's on a bye. So you can get him for dirt cheap for nothing, basically.
Yeah, I like it. And Dan Arnold isn't going to obviously the Jaguars aren't scoring that many touchdowns, but for a tight end to be getting 50, 60 yards and have been leading the team in targets and I guess yards for the last couple of weeks, you got to get that guy. Tight end's too unpredictable to turn down something like that.
And he's efficient after he gets the ball too, which is it's amazing. It's what you want.
Gotcha, yeah. All right, Coach, just what do you got?
Nah, that's it. I'm sorry. No.
Oh, you're just going with Dan Arnold on the day too? Okay.
I'm mailing it in. If you want, go holler at Evan Ingram, but they're on a bye too. So he scored a touchdown in the last 2 weeks. Maybe he's starting to heat up. There you go.
Conklin isn't my most biggest pickup. It could be a trap game for him, honestly, because the Chargers do give up the 6th most fantasy points to tight ends, but they did just stop Dallas Goedert this past week. Sorry, Jibbs. So it could be a game where we think it's a great matchup, but it ended up being a Dalvin Cook show where he runs for 200 yards because the Chargers are also bad against running backs. So I would like to still start him, but I understand, Maddie, why you are not trying to fall for a trap as well either. But my actual real pickup, and it wasn't Tyler Conklin, but I do like Tyler Conklin, it's Pat Firemuth, and it will depend on how this game goes, kind of. He's been great the last 2 weeks with Juju Smith-Schuster out. I've mentioned him, I think, as my top pickup back-to-back weeks now. And we'll see how it goes tonight. This is a tough matchup. The Bears are really good against tight ends. And if he can perform at least something like 4 for 50, he's my number one pickup at tight end because he is obviously seeing the work and he's obviously producing for the Steelers offense here. And if you're looking for a tight end replacement this week, a lot of the good tight ends you want to pick up are on buys. Pat Firemuth is that guy you want to go after.
They're playing the Lions.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and that's a great matchup, too. So
historically bad against tight ends.
Agreed. They also have bad tight ends a lot of times. But
yeah, everybody.
Let's see here. Just a couple others. I mean, CJ Uzama, but he's on a bye. Moali Cox.
Bye.
He's didn't perform last week, but he has performed. George Swain, Jibs, your boy, who had
that's my boy. That's my pick. Jeff Swain.
The Titans play. Who the hell did the Titans play this week? They play someone tough. I can't think of who they play, but the matchup is decent. That if as a deep option, George Swain could be an option. Adam Troutman saw 7 targets off a bye. Love to see if that kind of turns into something. And Ricky Seals-Jones got dropped in a ton of leagues. I don't know if Logan Thomas is back just yet, but Ricky Seals-Jones has performed to that top level, and they do play the Bucks, who aren't they're average against tight ends, so he could be an option for you. So,
Titans play the Saints this week.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So
I was gonna say
Titans, the Saints. Do the Saints give up a lot? I forget if they give up a lot or not. But he's involved in the offense, and that's what's important.
I don't like Troutman against the Titans.
I don't like it either, but it's an option. People might be desperate.
Yeah,
I feel like every time I tune into the game and they throw the Troutman, it's just like something bad always happens. Like, no matter what.
He might have been one of the biggest busts that any expert out there thought was amazing this past offseason. Like, all I heard was Troutman. I'm like, yeah, I felt it too, but there's no Troutman. Nothing. But that's going to wrap up our waiver portion of the show, guys. Hopefully some of those players are helping you to pick up, and hopefully you can start them and grab them and hopefully put them in your starting lineups to help you out with a good week. That week 10 is hopefully a rebound week in fantasy for a lot of fantasy owners and players. So that's going to be that. But we do have some trade talk. Just want to go over about 7 players real quick here and kind of talk about, whether we kind of like them in trades or not. So we want to get rid of them, we want to get them, kind of thing like that. So I'll start with Eliza Mitchell. He's performed when he's the starting running back on this 49ers team here now. And they ran the ball 11 times this past week. He had the ball 8 times. So are you guys looking to acquire Mitchell, or do you guys want to get rid of Mitchell right now? Think about it.
Let me look at his matchups.
He puts up decent numbers when he's been in the game. I don't like this week's matchup, but after that they have the Jags, and that's a decent matchup for him. So this week it could be a little bit iffy, but next week for sure. So I don't know, maybe wait until he doesn't have that great of a performance next week and then try to grab him.
That is a good option, honestly. Jibs?
I'm down to trade him, actually, because I just don't know. It's just Kyle Shanahan might just throw another chef in that kitchen eventually. And, yeah, he's been the guy the whole year. And certain people got a little bit healthier over the last 2 weeks. So maybe be a little skeptical. But I also don't want to be holding in the banana when this guy is just ripping 18 carries for $130 every game, too. So, he has a line share of the carries, but you never know. And then, obviously, what if they go to the Trey Lance thing?
See, that's where I feel like that's going to increase it, because they're going to integrate him slowly, because what they tried to do didn't work. And so I feel like they're going to do a lot more of the run game when Trey Lance is in. We'll see.
Okay.
Or they're going to go to maybe like an RPO look, like what they're doing with Hurts in Philly right now.
Both great
fall.
I'm going to do that with Madi on this one, honestly.
Yeah.
I'm okay trading for him now after a bad week. I'm hoping if the fantasy owner assumes that Jeff Wilson's going to come back and take a lot of work, I'd rather trade for him now if I could. Maybe next week if after a bad week he has. But I still think he is their still top back in this offense here. And if Trey Lance does come in, I think it does work for this offense. I'd be looking to acquire him if I can, because I think he has decent matchups down the stretch. He does have to play Seattle again. They're really bad against running backs. I mean, who else do they play in that division? The Rams aren't that great against running backs. They're average at best, so they had to play them again at some point. I don't know the rest of their schedule offhand, but you always know that a 49ers running back is going to run. I'm willing to take a buy level risk right now if I can, if someone didn't like what they saw last week. All right. So over to our next guy here, Damian Harris. Kind of talked about him. Jibs mentioned that he has kind of an injury right now, but he's continuing to see a touchdown, I think, in 6 straight weeks now in this offense. Are you guys looking to acquire or sell off Damian Harris right now?
I'm looking to get rid of him. He hasn't been consistent. It's on a bye week this week, I believe. Right?
No.
Who do they play this week?
14.
Cleveland.
They play Cleveland. Yeah, I'm
Might as
trying
well
to
be
get rid of
bye.
him. Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to get rid of him before things get worse.
I'm down to get rid of him too, just because I know they have a bye in week 14, but they also have 2 matchups against the Buffalo Bills, so I'm expecting 2-0 games out of that. But they do have Jacksonville and Miami to finish off the year, so you could just keep him on the bench. You may have a little rock star, but I'd rather just sell him because Bill Belichick's finicky with his running backs.
Mm-hmm.
Got to keep bringing up Miami, don't you guys?
Bro, like they just can't. It's week 18. I'm sorry, they have Jacksonville.
Okay. I don't have to worry about that for DFS. So, but yeah, I'm looking to sell off if I can right now. I'm looking to see if an owner will trade me like a Jalen Waddle right now, if I can. If Ilvin, who's desperate at RB right now, if I can get back. Like I'm looking to get some kind of a young upside or some like wide receiver 3 with upside player right now. If you are okay at running back, Damian Harris is just. The touchdowns are literally saving his fantasy season right now. I think he's got 8 on the year at this point, or 7. And he's got, 200-yard games at this point. That's literally it. He hasn't really ran the ball that well. And I'm looking to sell off if someone is desperate for running back, which I'm sure there's someone in your league who's looking for an RB right now. That's how I feel about Damian Harris. Let's see. Next guy, Mike Williams, has now basically just shit the bed the last 3 or 4 weeks now in fantasy. He's dealing with some kind of knee injury, though. I heard out there reports have said. Are you guys looking to acquire Mike Williams or just see if you can sell him off for a high price still?
I'm buying him.
Maddie's done. She's
done. Listen, after watching that offensive line, there's some serious issues with the right side, both tackle and guard. It's not looking good. That's why you see really, really low numbers from him. It's not going to get any better coming forward. Minnesota is actually really great. Their defensive front, and so is Pittsburgh. So I feel like that's only going to cause more issues with Williams. I don't know. I don't like him. I say get rid of him. It's not going to look good the next few weeks. Even with Denver, makes me nervous. So I'm done.
2 times over the next 8 games, so 7 games, whatever it is. So
yeah.
Ships.
Oh, I'll buy into him. He's been pretty bad over the last 3 weeks. He doesn't have a buy anymore. But
4 weeks.
For me, we can make a deal, Maddie. Like I'll take him off your hands. But like for me, like I like guys who get a lot of volume, and for Mike Williams is to be trailing Keenan Allen by 16 targets. Like I think that's phenomenal, especially given like his career path. But I know he sucks, but maybe you could get him for the cheap, and that's why I'm a little into him. Like I don't think like I want him to be a starting. Like he could be a wide receiver too, but like maybe I'm looking for him to be a flex on my team at some point down the stretch when he gets together.
I'm making a bold call. I don't think he gets over 10 fantasy points until week 14.
Okay.
Could be.
They're going to demolish. It's not looking good. That's just bold take, but
I like it. I'm going to keep my eye on that one, actually. I like that. So for me, I think you're not getting your best value, obviously, out of Mike Williams currently right now if you try to sell him. But if you could package him with somebody right now, I'm looking to do that. Like I'm trying to package him and somebody and get a better wide receiver. I'm not liking what I'm seeing. The injury obviously is taking some kind of toll on him right now. And if he hasn't had 9 targets, anything under 9 targets, he's basically have done nothing in fantasy. So the matchups aren't great, and I'm just looking to sell off. And he might not get the best value him alone, but if you could sell him off and tell owner, like, listen, he's had about a couple weeks, he'll bounce back. This is a high power offense, and try to get a better player using him with it. I'm all about it. Selling off Mike Williams right now. All right, who else we got? Myles Gaskins had a good week this past week.
They gave him 20 carries.
He had 26 touches in this game here. No Malcolm Brown still. I think he's out at least another couple weeks. Could be more, but he's clearly their lead back right now. Are you buying? Are you selling off Myles Gaskin?
Depends on how desperate you are. I don't hate this. I don't hate it. Depending on how cheap you can get him. The next couple weeks are going to be all right.
He does play the Jets 2 times still this season.
Yeah. And the Giants.
Yes.
He's all right. He's not going to be my first one to sell, but he's not consistent. I don't know. If you can get him dirt cheap, take him. If you have an opportunity to trade for someone better, I trade him away. That's a really not a good answer. This is very political.
That's okay. This is a tough one, honestly. Jibs.
I'm selling him.
Selling him.
I had him.
Support that.
Steve knows I had him on one team, and it's been a grind. Just trying to figure out when to play him. And if he's starting to look like this, getting 20 carries, albeit for 30 yards, I don't know how he did that. But he's getting a lot of receptions, which is saving him. And I know the Dolphins love to throw the ball, and that's basically has been his MO this year. So he could be a productive player, and I think that could be working in your favor to sell him. I'm going to sell him to Steve because he wants to buy.
I also feel like once Tua is back and back and he can throw the ball, he's not going to get as many looks like he did last week.
I'm definitely not trying to buy him, honestly. I mean,
yeah,
he's had in the last 5 games now, he's had at least an RB2 in 3 of 5, which is good. And I think that is a great selling point right now. Use the Jets 2 games they have to play still this season. Use the Giants. But again, they have to play Tennessee and Seattle. Tennessee and New Orleans at the end of the season, right in week 16 and 17. That's not something you want to start Myles Gaskins in. Again, the matchup was good for him this week, and he still underperformed to my knowledge, I think, honestly. I mean, Houston was terrible against running backs, but he was still yet to able to put up a good RB1 week, which I thought he could possibly do. But for me, I'm just selling him off right now. I'm just not feeling him right now. Gaskins. Miami needs to draft a running back this offseason. Buy one. Whatever it is.
Well, they don't even have any good. They don't have a good draft spot.
They don't. It's bad.
Thank you.
I know. More Miami talk, I know. But George Kittle now. Finally coming off injury. Had a fantastic week. But is the injury still there? Is the play of possibly Trey Lance and the rest of the core that's actually there, like Ayuk and Debo, does that affect George Kittle moving forward? Or are you guys buying? Are you selling George Kittle?
George Kittle hasn't lived up to the hype this year. I'm getting rid of him.
I like it, honestly.
I'm going to hold him.
You gonna hold him? Just wait and see what happens?
Yeah. Paper hands. Don't want to be paper hands. But, yeah, Kittle showed he could be a dominant force, but Steve does make a good point. There's a lot of things that could go and change the whole situation up. So I think for now, I would like to hold him.
He does. See, it's tough, honestly, with George Kittle because I feel like after a big week like we just had coming off injury, people are going to be gushing over a top-tier tight end again. And you always want to have, obviously, a top-tier tight end, but is the injury there? There's so many question marks that I'd rather sell off and try to get a Hawkinson or a Gesicki right now if I can, and get a package for him right now if I could. If someone's willing to do a 2-for-1 for George Kittle and you could get a high end, a wide receiver 2, and maybe a tight end that's decent like Noah Fant or Mike Gesicki, I'm willing to do that because there's so much risk that he could end up being an IR by week 13 already again.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Get rid of that.
And I feel like people are always willing to pick up Kittle just because of his name.
Exactly. The name value might get you even more than what you expect back. That's kind of how I see it. I think I've said trade every single player so far. No, I bought into Mitchell. All right. So the next one here is, we'll wrap up with this last one here. So Michael Pittman, he's been dominant the last 4 weeks now this season here. But, no TY for most of it. Are you guys buying into him? You're not going to buy him low, but would you buy high, or are you just willing to sell high on him right now?
I'd keep him if you have him, and I'd also buy him if you have the opportunity as well.
I'm on the buy side.
Yeah. Week 11 might get a little tricky. They're playing Buffalo, but, I mean, I love him. I have him. There's no way I'm getting rid of him.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of on the same page here, honestly. I like there's nearly no other wide receiver there. I know we talked about Zach Pascal as an underdog, but Michael Pittman is literally their clear number one in this offense here, and he needs to be someone that you can buy high on right now. Like, if I could do a swap right now from Mike Williams for Michael Pittman, I don't know if anyone would do that right now, but maybe there are some owners out there that would. I would do that.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I feel about it. All right, guys. So we're going to wrap things up today here, guys. So, Madi, we appreciate you jumping on. This was a ton of fun. Love having you on the show here. Is there anything you want to shout out before we let you go today?
No, I appreciate being on. You guys are awesome. This was so much fun.
Appreciate it. Yeah, we'll definitely have to get you back on in the future for sure. We're going to be podcasting all the time, so we'll definitely get back on.
Yeah, if I come back, I need a flag because I feel really left out right now.
What a flag or something. Did you go to Ohio State or something?
Ohio State? That
Was
was
it
just like
Ohio
a
State?
dagger to my heart.
Oh my God.
I thought you went to Ohio or something.
No, I live in Oklahoma. We literally planted the flag in the middle of Ohio State's field. So
I can't wait.
that was like a big Boomer Sooner all the way.
All right,
Yeah.
we'll get you a Sooner flag up here, like everyone else will have to all match next time.
I actually have one. Yeah, I'm gonna have to drag it out. Yeah.
Do it. Yeah, awesome. So yeah, I can't win. I always mess something up before the episode's over. But we thank you guys for all tuning in today. I would say please check out our website, but we don't have a website anymore right now. Some stuff went down. China took it over, unfortunately. We got hacked. It's unfortunate. So if you try to go to our website, please don't right now because we don't have one. Hopefully, I'll have one back up before the season's over. But for right now, guys, you can follow all of us over. You can follow the coaches over at Coaches Fantasy on Twitter. We still will have our podcast going twice a week here, so you can check those out on every single social streaming platform that you use for your music or podcast listening to. We are pretty much everywhere. And if you want to follow me at Coach Jibs, you can do that at Coaches Fantasy.
They're good follows too.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Matt, throw your follow out there one more time too before we go.
Oh, at Madi Kroll.
So follow all three of us guys. We appreciate it. And Jibs, give your player real quick.
Oh, the game already started. Can't do it.
Oh, did it really? Oh, God. Well, too late. So thank you guys for listening once again. We'll see you back on Thursday, guys. Until then, guys, have a great one.
Peace.